I wasn't ready. All right. Welcome to the I Would Never podcast with the Brisk King. Today, I have a special guest. He's an independent wrestler of 19 years. And I'm looking at him now, and I'm finding it very hard to believe he's been doing this for as long as he said he has. And he's a dear friend of one of my earlier guests I interviewed. Well, fiance, not dear friend.
Yeah, friend too.
Let me give you a real title. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Cody Jones to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm ready to talk and let people know a little bit about me and answer some questions.
Like I said, thank you so much for giving me your time. I know, now it's kind of a rough time for the wrestling industry, but I know at least a few promotions have been starting the process of opening back up and allowing events to take place. And I know that you are wrestling in Chicago, I believe, correct?
Mm-hmm.
For war wrestling.
War's in Lima, Ohio.
Okay.
In Chicago, it's Gali Lucha,
Okay.
Lucha Libre. That's the one in Chicago.
Okay. So my first question for you is, I know that independent wrestlers kind of have free reign in terms of where they can go and who they can wrestle for. As long as they get booked there, they can wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
But how does like the whole process of getting booked for a promotion go? Like, do you have like an agent that does it for you, or is it like businesses will contact you, or you'll contact businesses and y'all will set up the booking? Like, how does that work?
It's a little bit of A, a little bit of B. So there's the way of just going out and reaching out to that promotion. Hey, I would like to work for your company. Here's a little bit about what I do. Here's some footage. Here's some promo pictures. That kind of stuff. Or the promotion will hear from you through somebody in the locker room that's worked with you, and then they'll recommend you, and then they'll reach out to you and, hey, I want to use you. Can I have some footage to see what basically see if you're worth anything, and then you discuss logistics that way.
So say you submit all of these different things, like the resume, the promo pictures, your videotapes, and like you get booked for a match or something. So when you get booked, do they tell you the person you're going against and like how the finish is gonna go and all that? Do they tell you that ahead of time, or is it like a day of thing when you get
It's
information?
You'll probably know pretty soon who you're wrestling just because they'll put out a flyer and kind of get that match so they can promote the match. As far as like the finish, you probably won't find out until like day of, just
Okay.
because some of these places it's only like a one-off. You'll go do a spot show. They might run only once a month or once every 2 months, and they bring you in. They might not have room for you in the next show, or it might be a few months before you come back. So you don't really know what the direction is until you get there, or what they have in mind for you.
Okay, because like I said, and Paloma was like the very first big wrestling person I interviewed, and I was talking to her about how she's like the champion of 3 promotions and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And my question for you is kind of like, if, like, I know, say you go into a promotion, win a title and whatnot, and I know that not every promotion will let you like carry the title with you, because
Hmm.
we all know how that could turn out.
Yeah.
Tessa Blanchard, prime
Yep.
example of what could happen when that is
Yep.
done. But but like, so how, once you like win a title for a company and you're still wrestling for all these other ones, is it like you're not like, you don't have a contractual obligation to just wrestle for them exclusively? Like, you can still bounce around. Like, is that how that works? I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, essentially, you're only the champion for that company when they run the shows. Um, so, like, I guess in the sense of a lot of these independents don't have the big reach like a Impact or a Ring of Honor, so they just have that localized reach, and then you're the champion basically for their bubble, for that moment in that company, and then you go wrestle at this place, and you could be a different character. You could not even be be even at the bottom of the card, not even like championship level like the other one. So it's just case by case. I'm go to war. If I'm champion, I'm champion at war. Um, if I have an opportunity to get the title over, like internet, doing stuff locally, try that. Um, if not, it's just more like I'm champion online, and then at that Fed at the moment.
So like I know I was watching one of your matches for War, and I don't know how long ago it was because I didn't have a date on the video, but I know you were the world champion at the time because it was a promo you were cutting for it. I believe it was for a casket match. I believe,
Yes,
and I was watching the promo, and again I don't know how long ago this was, so I kind of didn't feel
actually, like a year. It's like a year ago.
okay.
So
So
it's it was, yeah. We just passed the anniversary of it.
all right, so like that's fairly recent, fairly recent.
Yeah.
As of now, are you carrying any titles from any promotions? Or are you like champion of any promotions right now?
Unfortunately, no. I am not a champion anywhere. I lost. So at one point, I was war champion, and then I was galley tag team champion. Lost both of those. Actually lost it in that match, that the casket match that I was building up for. Ended up just being a cage match, and I lost the title in that match. And then I lost the galley tag titles probably a few months ago, actually. So I'm not a champion at any place right now. I would like to be. I'm going to continue to strive to be one, but at the time, no, it's not in the cards right now. You never know, though.
Yeah, you never say never. I feel like
No.
with the rise of all these different wrestling companies and everyone kind of putting themselves on the map now, like with NJPW finally breaking into the North American market over here and starting to do shows here in the U.S. and AEW, of course, on the rise. All these other smaller promotions, Impact and Ring of Honor, slowly but surely, kind of getting back into like the conversation of like great wrestling companies. I feel like now is the perfect time to be a wrestling fan. I feel
Yeah, 100%.
like I just don't. I'm one of those people that I get that not every wrestling promotion is going to be your cup of tea, but I don't like putting them against each other because they're going to do that anyway. Because in the spirit of competition, it happens
Yeah,
anyway. But overall, I won't complain. I'll complain about something I don't like about a certain wrestling company, but at the end of the day, I'm going to enjoy all the wrestling because when all these different wrestling companies, you get something different everywhere you look. You don't get the same type of content, So when people like complain about like the WWE and the Attitude Era was better, or how AEW is going to be like the next WCW, it's like just shut up and enjoy the wrestling. like
that's exactly it. That's
just be a great
you just
wrestling fan.
just enjoy, because if you look at these people that say that, they remember moments. They remember. That's why we as humans love nostalgia. It's those moments that make us feel something, and that's the Attitude Era. That's the comparison with WCW. But in that sense, you're almost just pigeonholing them to that, instead of, like you said, just appreciating what the wrestling is and what we get to experience right now. There hasn't been this many companies on top, or that we can watch in forever. I don't think we have so many different opportunities to watch such good wrestling. Even in your local town, you could go to a good wrestling show because the talent in wrestling is better.
I can agree with that completely. I was talking with one of my wrestling friends from back home a few days ago about this, and I was talking about how like when we was growing up, when I was growing up, the only wrestling meet I had was WWE. It was Raw
Hmm.
on Monday, and Thursdays it was SmackDown. Thursdays and Fridays it was SmackDown, and now fast forward, it's been more than 10 years now, and now we have WWE, AEW, NJPW, PWG, Ring of Honor, Impact. We have all these companies that are on the rise and making a name for themselves and bringing all these different type of styles to the industry and showcasing all the talent that's there. And I think, like you said, I feel like fans focus too much on the moments because everyone can tell you all their favorite wrestling moment. Everyone can remember that exact moment. But if you ask them about the entire like eras or stuff like that, like if you ask somebody, can you name like the top 10 best wrestling matches out of an era. They probably couldn't tell you that, but they could tell you their favorite match or their favorite moment from the era or something that really stuck out to them. And like I said, I just feel like fans should just enjoy the product. Like,
Yeah. But and it's okay to have those moments because that's what keeps us alive, keeps us wanting that feeling. Because I'm just like that. I'm a wrestler. I've been doing it for, like you said, almost 19 years. But at the end of the day, I'm still a fan, and I have my moments. Like I have the Attitude Era moments. But I also understand that wrestling evolves, and with that, so should the way we perceive it because it's going now. It's way more athletic than it ever was, and we have so much. And as a fan, you could watch wrestling every day of the week, sometimes twice on in one day, and most people would just like to sit back and complain on how wrestling is not the way they want it to be.
but like the way I look at it is, it all like you said, wrestling evolves over time. At one point, it was like wrestling was just headlocks and rest holds, and women weren't taken seriously, and smaller like cruiserweight wrestlers weren't seen as big draws. And now it's like over time that perception has changed. Like just this past weekend, we had Bianca and Sasha Banks main event WrestleMania,
And
and
not only two women of color,
exactly.
which also gets which also would be a hindrance to you in the past as well. Like the color of your skin, you might not get booked in this place, or this place might not push you because of the color of your skin. There's so many flyers you see with just there's not a person of color on the flyer. And a lot of people don't know I'm half black and half Mexican, so I am a person of color. And there's just that dynamic. Like my dad was one of the first black wrestlers to wrestle a white man in the South.
Yeah, Mr.
So
Condé.
yeah, like it's crazy how that struggle continues. But even though the the people of color, the women, the cruiserweights, they just continue to evolve and get better, but still kind of held back. We're held back because of what was thought of us back in the past.
I can agree. I was talking this. I don't remember who it was, but I was talking to somebody, and I was like, if you go back to like the '90s and the '80s, and you look at a match card, it'll be nowadays a match card is like 8, 9 matches,
Hmm.
and out of all 9 of those matches, 7 to 8 of them will be men's, and if we're lucky, we'll get a women's match. And now, compared to now, where it's like women are main eventing, is you're
Hmm.
seeing on television show they're in multiple segments. It's multiple
Hmm.
women's matches on the card, and like I said, like you said a few minutes ago, wrestling evolves. And I think a lot of the older fans don't understand that, and they're so stuck in the past because it's like, oh, I remember when wrestling was like this. Yeah, that was good for what the time period was, but if you try to put on a wrestling match from the days of Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart, and you try to run that same formula now with today's fans, it's going to get torn to shreds because it's like that was a much slower paced wrestling. And like you mentioned, it's wrestling's a lot more fast paced, a lot more quick to the point.
Yeah,
It's a lot more spectacle to it. I can say.
yeah, and I do think there is a place for the Hogans and the Bret Harts, but I also think that a wrestling card should be walking into Baskin Robbins, and I just get to choose whatever flavor, whatever match I want to like. It shouldn't have to be. It's a variety show. Wrestling is a variety show. Every match should be for everybody in attendance. Like you're gonna have the goofy entertainment aspect of it. You're gonna have the high flyers. You're gonna have the more hard hitting, the Sheamuses, the Cesaros, the of the worlds, and then you're gonna have the athletic women, the athletic men, and then you're gonna have that big, slower storytelling because at the end of the day, wrestling is a story. It's good versus evil. It'll always be good versus evil. But now it's the way the story's told is has evolved, and I think that's what people don't get is that people are like, well, it's the story's not the same. No, it's the same story. It's just being told in a different way. So now it's the similar to listening to an audiobook and reading a book. Oh, people, I'd much rather read a book, and those people that listen to audiobooks are I'm not into that.
Yeah,
Okay, but it's the same thing. It's just a different way of that product. And I think that's what wrestling is. Wrestling's still a story of good versus evil. It's just the way it's told and the way it's presented is different.
I can agree completely. Like I think, me as a wrestling fan, I was hooked because of the whole presentation aspect of it.
Hmm.
I love wrestling for the technical aspects of it as well. I'm a big fan of technical wrestling. I love submissions. I love when someone can counter a move and put somebody into a hold that I never seen before. And I like a wrestling character that oozes charisma, and it's just no matter what, good or bad, you just want to see them. Whether you want to see
Yeah.
them get their asses whipped or you want to see them win a championship gold. To me, wrestling is all about the presentation, and that's what really hooked me into the industry. Like for my favorite wrestler, I also have a tendency to like very controversial wrestlers.
Okay.
Like my favorite wrestler of all time is Chris Benoit, and the first thing everyone tells me, he killed his family, right? I am fully aware. I was like 7 years old when that happened. I remember it being on the news. I know everything about that. I'm also the type of person to separate the wrestling persona from the actual person, because, like we said before, wrestling is a spectacle. You get
Hmm.
this character. You trying the goal is to get the character over, pull on the shoulder, entertain the fans, and if your character's not interesting, you're not gonna go nowhere with that. Like if you
Hmm.
can't make us hate you or like you, I believe the saying, any reaction is better than no reaction.
Yeah, because the worst reaction in wrestling is none. And you go out
Exactly.
there and you're doing everything you can do, and they give you no reaction. That's the worst reaction.
That's what I'm saying, and it's like a lot of people, like we said, wrestling changes over time, and the types of wrestling, the type of characters you see, all that's going to change. Like you're not going to get the Hulkamaniacs that eat your vitamins and shit like that now. You're not going to get that. You're going to get more flashy characters, more people that are athletic, that are doing wrestling moves that you never would have thought of 20, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
especially with like the lighter wrestlers, like such as yourself and like luchadors and stuff like that. You guys can do some amazing stuff. And it was a special time. It was a time in wrestling where people thought that cruiserweights weren't shit and they couldn't draw crowds and they
Yeah.
couldn't make no one no money. So I commend you. Got you like heavyweight, cruiserweight guys. I salute y'all because y'all came
I,
a long way.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm 5'8" and some change, maybe 5'9" on a good day. Um, but like I was always drawn to like Rey Mysterio, like the cruiserweights. My favorite wrestler is Shawn Michaels. He was maybe 6 foot on a good day, if depending on depending on what article you read. But he mixed the great style of technical and being able to use a little bit of that lucha libre. And he was, to me, him and Brett were kind of those two first hybrid type wrestlers, and then it just evolved from that on. And yeah, it's wrestling's a spectacle, but there is also those characters. If there's no depth to the character, then I can't be I can't be
Invested in
supportive.
it.
There's no way for me to be in
Invested in
engulfed in
it.
it.
Yeah, for sure. Like again, I love the sport of wrestling, and I understand that people, certain, I want to say certain companies, I would say certain things that companies do might not rub people the right way. And I get that because, again, you're not going to like everything that's on TV. But that's the beauty of having all these different wrestling companies. Because if you don't like one thing, you can probably look at another company and find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And
And they also have to get around like sponsorships and networks too. So a lot of it they can't put what you're used to because that TV and rights and all that stuff have changed too.
exactly. Like a lot of people talk about how good the Attitude Era was, and looking as somebody who grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era, where it was more about wrestling and attitude and
Yeah.
personality, I watched some of the Attitude Era stuff, and overall, don't get me wrong, it's a great era. I respect everything that it done. I respect the stars it created. But in my eyes, it was all about shock factor. It was all about
Mhm.
surprises. It wasn't about wrestling. It wasn't about the storylines. It was always about what can we do to shock the crowd.
Mhm.
And for me, that's cool and all, but I like wrestling. Like I said, I like the presentation of it. My very
Yeah.
first, the very first match I watched was a wrestling match I ever watched was Eminem versus Paul London and Brian Kendrick, and that right there, those are probably my two favorite tag teams. And
Was it a pay-per-view match?
I don't think so. I think it was a regular SmackDown because
Oh, like okay.
I think they were facing Eminem was facing the Hardys at the Royal Rumble that Sunday, and
Oh, okay. I got you.
Paul London and Brian Kendrick were the tag team champions at the time,
Got you.
and it was a SmackDown before the pay per view, and they beat them. And I was like, I love Eminem. I loved how flashy they were.
Yeah.
I loved that they were cocky ass sons of bitches, and they backed it up because they were winning
Yep.
titles. And then we had Paul London and Brian Kendrick, two short men that could fly across the ring and do all this stuff with their bodies that we haven't seen in a while, or we
Yeah.
slept on it basically. So again, I appreciate the Attitude Era. I appreciate every era of wrestling because without all these different eras, we wouldn't be where we are today. So
Exactly. That's the best way of putting it. Without all of that, we would not be here talking about wrestling. Like there would probably be no WrestleMania 37. Like without any era. Like it has to happen for that for everything to evolve.
very, very that. Like everything literally had like without all these moments, without all these trials and tribulations, without all these companies getting bought up or bought out, without all this stuff happening, we could not. The wrestling industry could not be the way it is today without all of that. So
Yep.
I just feel like instead of complaining about wrestling, just enjoy it. Just enjoy the product.
Yep. That speaks about volumes to most things in life, I think. But I digress.
Yeah, for sure. But I want to talk about one of the. So when I followed you on Instagram, the first post of yours I saw was you doing the Hurricanrana off of the basketball hoop, and
Oh yeah.
and you were telling me I think you said that was in 2002, I think,
Yeah.
and and I was like, okay, 2002. How old was I? I believe I was 4, and I and I was like, I was 4 years old, and he was on this bitch flying off of basketball hoops, and just for in a gym, just to make
Yeah.
entertain these fans. And I
Yeah.
was like, this guy has something. He has star potential. I that was really cool. I really liked
I
that.
appreciate that.
And the one thing I noticed about you, I really like the character that you portray in your matches, especially when it's you and Paloma, the interactions y'all have, or like her as a manager, just nagging your opponent or attacking the referee's number. It's so fun to watch. I love the dynamic of you two. I love how full of yourself you are. I live for a cocky wrestler. That's my thing. I love that. Especially when they're winning matches and titles, like you can't really say shit to me.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
I really gravitated towards your character because of
Oh,
that.
I appreciate that. It actually wasn't a character at first. It was just because I started training when I was nine years old. Had my first match when I was 15, and all I heard was, my dad would be like, "Oh, you're the next. He's my son. He's the next Rey Mysterio. He's the next Rey Mysterio. He can do. He can do it. He can do it all." And at some point, hearing all that, you're gonna be full of yourself. So from like
Exactly.
15 to about, I would probably say 25-ish, it wasn't a character. I had convinced myself that I was the shit, and it showed, and it cost me probably a lot of friendships and a lot of just bad decisions. But I think talking about the evolution, like I had to do that to be able to. Now I can turn that on. Now, like if I need to be like now, there's a difference between Cody Thompson and Cody Jones. Like before, it was just the same person, and it was just this cocky like nuisance, like just a piece of shit dude. I I was just an asshole for no reason. Like, and that was just in real life and in wrestling. Now I was able to evolve and separate it to where I can be Cody Jones, the cocky guy, but I can be Cody Jones, the come from behind, root for a good guy
Yeah,
too.
underdog.
And then the dynamic with Paloma, I like we've always for over 13 years we've been together. So there've been times we've been in wrestling matches, we've been in Texas, we did a bunch of stuff together. But when we moved to Chicago, it was just more of like we had nobody, so it was just us traveling together. And then these companies would be like, oh, we can put you guys together. And then it was just kind of like an evolution of that too. We got together, and at first you kind of have to osmosisly, I don't know if that's a word, but I just made it one, uh, figure out each other's limits and where they're going, so you can kind of step back and let that happen, and then vice versa. And then now I think we've got it down to a science, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it. This is probably the most fun I've had in wrestling in a while, just because I get to do it with the person I love the most, and we're doing pretty damn good at it too. So
Yeah, y'all really are. Like you guys are so easy to hate. It's so easy to hate you guys.
I think we're an underrated power couple that we don't get enough love for. Like there's all these wrestling couples and this, and this. Like we've been putting in the work for 13 years and we don't get any love. But hey, it's just all about proving yourself. That's fine.
It's only because you're not on a major promotion and you
Yeah.
don't really have the major platform yet. That's all it is. Because if people
Yeah.
knew about you and Paloma, I swear they would fall in love with you. Like you guys are so easy to hate and a
Yeah.
pleasure to love. It really
That's what I tell her all the time. I'm like, it's just so easy to hate you. And then she's like, you just have a hateable face. I'm like, if people out of context, people thought we hated each other, but we're complimenting each other on how good of heels we both are.
like definitely that because I don't think you have a punchable face. I think your personality, the way you sell the character, makes me want to see you get your ass whipped so
Yeah,
bad.
that's
Like you
that's a
really
punchable face. That you just
exactly
want me to get my ass whooped, and that's the perfection of a heel. Like yeah, you boo me, but at the end of the day, you want to see me get my ass whooped, and that's what I'm there for.
exactly. And now you're really doing your job when you're getting your ass whipped, and then somehow you still win the match. So now,
Yeah.
not only did you get your ass whipped, but you still managed to walk away with a win. That infuriates me. And
Oh,
you're really doing
100%.
your job. I
That wrestling's
enjoy
great.
your character work. I really do.
I appreciate that.
Another match of yours I watched was, and I can't believe it was only 10 minutes. It was, I don't know where it was, but it says it was you versus a man by the name of Adrian Matthews.
Oh,
And like I said, I can't believe this match was only 10 minutes. Because I
it's a
felt
damn
like I
good match,
watched
right?
it for like 15 to 20.
That
And I don't know. It was It was a whole sequence you two did, where I think you went for a suplex or something, and somehow you countered it into a tombstone, into a pile driver, and I want to say, I think that's how you won the match. But I know you won the match. I believe. I'm pretty sure you
No,
won.
I lost the match, but he went for his finisher, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. He goes for his finisher, and I spin into a pile driver. Yeah, uh,
Yes, I
the,
remember
I
that. And I was
yeah,
like,
I like that match.
yeah, I can't believe it's only 10 minutes. I really cannot believe. It just goes to show how much you can tell a story and how much you can do in a given amount of time. Because
Yeah,
I, I assumed it was only 10 minutes because the video cut the entrances out and it was just a match. But
yeah.
again, I really cannot believe that was 10 minutes because I felt it was such a great paced match, and I didn't want it to end. It was so many nice transitions, some very smooth sequences. I really can't believe that was only 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the compliment. I really enjoy that match too. And the funny thing about that was the first time I'd even met. No, maybe like the second time I'd ever met Adrian Matthews, but it was definitely the first time I'd wrestled him. And it was for New Era Wrestling in Denver, Colorado, or in Golden, Colorado. And it was their anniversary show. So, and we were first match, and then we went out there and had that, and everybody was like, "Well, thanks, thanks. We got to follow that." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, it was just one of those nights where everything clicked. Like it was just you can't you can't teach chemistry, and we just had it that night, and everything clicked, and I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy that match. One of my favorites, actually.
I can't. I would hate to be the group of any of the wrestlers that had to follow that because y'all did that in 10 minutes. So, and
Yeah.
it's like you have matches that go triple that time and still won't be as good. And it's like a lot of people. I've seen a lot of like the wrestlers talk about how when it comes to the match card, you either want to be the opener who sets the tone for everybody else to follow, or you want to be the closer, the big main event. But for
Hmm.
me, I feel like every wrestling match on the card is a main event because I feel like if you're good enough and at your craft and what you do, you can and you're good enough as a wrestler to be able to maintain the energy all throughout the match, all throughout the card. Like this match sets the tone, the next match keeps the energy, and it just stays consistent throughout. I feel like every wrestler is capable of that. And
And I kind of agree with you, but the reason that statement I feel is have or comes up is because each show is gonna that each match has a different story to it. So like if one match could be way more emotional than another match, so you don't want to be after that. You don't want to be after one of those big so for example, say if Bianca and Sasha weren't main event, they just like in the middle of the card they had that match and the emotion behind that, and then everybody trying to follow that, it would just nobody would they're just all burnt out, like the fans would be burnt out. So you got to kind of take them on this roller coaster ride where you can bring them up, you want to start them hot, and then kind of get them into a groove, and then up again, down a little bit, and then at the end is the main event. And I think that's the kind of the best way to kind of uh to ride a card is you want to kind of get the crowd to go through an emotional roller coaster.
as you should, because like we said, wrestling is a story. You're telling a story every time you get in the ring, every time you wrestle an opponent. You're always telling the story, and it might not be consistent all the time because we know some companies don't have consistent booking with their wrestlers. But the way I look at it is, if everybody can put on a match that is able to maintain the energy throughout, I don't see why every match can't be red hot or a good match on the card.
Yeah.
Because the main event's the main event. We all know that's what people really pay money to see, for the most part. But if y'all can keep their interest with your matches at the beginning and the middle, I don't see why all the matches can't be seen as great matches.
Yeah, you're right. And if I had to kind of add on to what you were saying, like I'd rather be either the first after intermission if you're in an indie show, because after intermission, because you want to be that match right after intermission, because those you want to get the fans back up. You're basically a match one again, or main event just because you're the main event. The company is starting to see some stuff in you and want to put you in the main event.
So I always wonder this, and I don't know why I didn't get the actual Paloma this, but I always hear wrestlers talk about how multi-man matches are a lot harder to do because it's a lot more people that you have to think about and a lot more things you have to take into account. And what's like, because I just saw your video of when you debuted in Mexico. I don't know if that was
Hmm.
recent, because I saw it on YouTube. Paloma uploaded it, and I watched
Yeah,
it right
it was
after.
this last October.
Okay, last October, and I was watching. I think it was a 5-man match, I believe,
Yeah.
5-man match, and it just seemed like everything seemed to flow together for the most part. But I always hear the wrestlers talk about how difficult it is to kind of do that match and like plan it out and execute it because again, there's a lot more bodies to account for. It's a lot more different spots that you might want to do that you might have to reconsider considering how many people are in the ring. So how do you prepare for like multi-man matches and stuff like that?
Um, like you said, it's very difficult to plan for a multi-man match. Usually, when you go to a show and they're like you're wrestling, it's a five-way. You're like like you said, because there's a lot more people. So you basically, and this is the way I look at it. So if no matter how many people are in the match, so if it's a three-way or a five-way, we'll use the Mexico one for example. Um, you have to do five different matches in that allotted time of your one match, because you can't all be in the ring at the same time trying to do stuff because you'll take the fans can't process that. humans can't just process all of that clutter real quick. It's like if you watch a battle royal and it just all like the ring's just full, like you have no clue where to look. So you don't want to you want to showcase each individual in the match. So you kind of just break it down into five different matches, and then you have a big climax at the end, and then and then you kind of just whatever the ending is, that's what you go with. But it's just it's tricky, and then even when you do it that way, I know that make kind of sounds a little bit easier, but it still might not work just because timing and people get hurt, tired. You never know what happens, what could happen.
Exactly. Like you guys are putting your lives on the line. Not even, yeah, I would go that far to even say you guys are putting your lives on the line day in and day out for the entertainment of us fans. So it's like wrestling. It's a reason why they say don't try this shit at home. Any of the stuff that I see the stuff you guys do. And when I was younger, I used to want to be a wrestler, but I'm 22 now. I don't think that is in my future. I would like to be a commentator or like
There you go.
or a correspondent, but being in the ring, I wouldn't mind like doing like a one-off match. I just want to get a feel of it. I want to do it one time because I just feel like it would be so fun. Like I want to do my one celebrity appearance at SummerSlam.
There you go. Once Brisk is behind you, you get your
I'm
gear and
glad
all
you
that
said
stuff.
Brisk sponsors me, does my gear. Oh man.
Yep.
Oh man, if I had Brisk sponsor me and then make my gear, oh that would be lovely. Oh, that would be such a lovely thing. That would probably convince me to be a wrestler. If Brisk sponsored me, that probably would make me want to be a wrestler.
There you go.
Just to make
You heard that, Brisk. Come on, Brisk.
Come on, like y'all acknowledge me. That's great and all. Now I want sponsorship.
There you go.
I want to be sponsored, and I want that verified badge on Instagram.
Yep.
This is my journey. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just. Oh my god, is it really raining? I hope they cancel dodgeball because I really don't feel like going. Oh man. One more question for you. So I know that in like matches, I know you got some people might talk to their opponents and like plan out what they're gonna do ahead of time, or like even probably practice it in the ring just to make sure y'all know how to do it smoothly. So is it like whenever you want to like try like a new move or something like that, do you like call up some of your other wrestling friends and you like go to like I know you don't have like a performance center, but like you go to like a wrestling school or something and like just do like what do you call that? What do you call a scrimmage? I guess for the lack of a better
Yeah.
term.
Training, scrimmage, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't do that as much anymore. Um, I used to. It was more like in Texas. It was a little bit more accessible for me to have a ring. Like now with work and then trying to like, wrestling and trying to go to the gym and all that stuff. It training. I go every once like Thursdays when we train. So I'll go. I try to get there every Thursday. But as far as trying new moves, um, like I know this is gonna sound sometimes it's gonna sound something, but like I will I'm on a roll right now, and I probably jinx myself that just trying new moves in a match that I've never done before. Like this past weekend, I did a Spanish fly for the first time. Never done it. Never even practiced it. I've taken it once, but I've never. So I just got up there and said, "Screw it," and went, and it turned out great. So if I'm confident in myself to do it, I'll just try it. If not, I've I've learned to be able to call something and then also call it to where if I don't think I can do it, I have something in the back of my mind to audible to,
Right.
if that makes sense. Like 19, I've learned a lot, and I at least I know that sounds cocky as well too, but I've learned like what my limits and what I'm comfortable with doing. I understand that I can call that audible in the middle of the match, and then basically put the person in a position where they won't hurt themselves or hurt me if I need to audible that.
Right. So basically, it's like for the most part, like in like I want, yeah, like during a match, you would if you said you wanted to do like a Spanish fly spot, you would like signal to your opponent that's what you wanted to do, and he would kind of like get in position for that, or
So like a Spanish fly would be talked about in the back prior, like something so along the lines of like, hey, I might want to do a Spanish fly, just a heads up. And then if the like going on in the match, you're like, all right, we're ready to do a Spanish fly, and then we'll get into position. So it's not that's more of a like it's talked about in the back, hey, I might do this or I might want to do this, and then, okay, just let me know, and then we communicate in the ring that way.
okay, that's I like that because it's like I know that in the recent year, and I wouldn't say recent years, in this generation, we now live in a time where people have access to the dirt sheets and they know backstage, they know the ins and out of the wrestling industry. And I know when I was coming up, it was a very protected industry. People, the gimmicks that you saw on TV was how people lived in real life, and it was a lot more secretive. And you didn't know anything, the ins and outs, unless you were in the industry yourself. And now compared to back in the day, like how like the older wrestlers like HBK, I was about to say Shawn Michaels and HBK. Wow. Bret Hart, Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock, and now you have. Fast forward now, we have like Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus. Now they have social media, they have Instagrams, they have TikToks, and they didn't have none of that shit back in like the 80s and the 90s. Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't go online and figure out who was going to make a surprise return or who was going to win what match. And that's what was so fun about wrestling for me when I was younger, because I didn't know the industry. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who was coming back. Every time I watched wrestling, I was always genuinely surprised. And
You didn't know the magic.
yeah, like the magic's gone now because it's like
Yep.
for the most part, I feel like you can kind of call the matches and how you can at least with WWE. I feel like they're very predictable, and every match type that they do has a certain formula that they just slightly tweak depending on the wrestlers being used. But it's like it feels like you can either call the spots from a mile away, or you can easily predict the winner. And I don't like it when it's easy to predict. I like to be genuinely surprised.
Yeah, and then so going back to your when it was super protective. I grew up in that. Like I grew up in the in wrestling in the late '80s, early '90s. I was born in '87. So I was watching that, and then with my dad being a wrestler, he protected me. Like I saw him get hung from a balcony. He didn't tell me it was going to happen.
Fuck.
Um, yeah, I saw him. I remember seeing him get busted open. Didn't tell me it was going to happen. And that's cool. Like that's what it that I think it's cool to let people in a little bit, but now everybody knows how it is, which like you said, it takes away the magic. So like it's like going to a magic show and just sitting down and like, all right, I already know what's going to happen at the end of this show, and then get mad that it's not the way you want it to be. Like
Like
it's been like
it's
for
really funny that you said that because it's
yeah,
like it goes all the way back to how wrestling fans these days are very hard to please. And it's like now since everyone knows the ins and outs of the industry, how the fuck do you entertain them? Because they know
exactly.
everything. They know that wrestlers are in the ring communicating with each other. They know if you're even smart enough, you might be able to pick up the cues yourself if you watch it on TV. And then you got wrestling journalists that I'll use that term very loosely, but like Dave Meltzer or what's the other one? We have
There's
Cage Side Sports.
Wade Keller,
Yeah, exactly.
Brian Alvarez. Yeah.
That's the one I was trying to think of. Brian
Oh,
Alvarez.
Alvarez.
Like it's all these different wrestling journalists that right now they're rating the matches and talking about the product or kind of like spilling the secrets of the business, for lack of a better term. And it's like it takes away. Not only does it take away the magic, but now people are like, "What the fuck's the point of me watching this?" Because it's like the same. I know what's going to happen every week or every match, or the match isn't engaging because I know that these people are friends in real life, and now since they have social media, you have access to their personal lives. So now it's like you can't buy into their character that they're portraying because now you realize that the person they are in real life is so far removed from the character.
Yeah, no, 100%. And but it's like going to a movie and knowing what the ending is. You lose that emotional investment. And I think that's what I think that's what a lot of media like outlets are missing now is that engagement. Like a lot of things don't engage people because it's just so fast. Like everything's so fast. Like you get information so fast. Like everybody knows about wrestling. Okay, so like you said, why are we watching it? Like you know what's going on. Like but for some reason you watch it because you want to escape, but you just like your human instinct now in the society, you want to ruin the sport, you want to ruin the surprise. You want to be in the know, but you're struggling because people want to be in the know, but they want to watch wrestling to escape. And wrestling, when it's perfect, wrestling is the greatest thing in the world
I agree.
because it will make you forget what you're doing. It'll make you forget everything that's wrong in the world, and it'll make give you something else to be pissed off about. But that's what it's supposed to do. Like nobody like, oh, I had a bad day at work today, and you go to watch wrestling. Hey, you know what? Screw you, Drew McIntyre, whoever the hill is you hate right at the moment. But you get to do that. Like you get back in the day, you would take your families to the show. You have that bond with your family, and I just wish wrestling would bring that back. Like there are moments, like I still have moments. I still get excited watching wrestling. I still get nervous. I still get anxiety just watch. I remember as a kid I'd bite my nails watching wrestling. I still get my hands get sweaty watching wrestling. I still get anxious because I'm a kid. But I love wrestling because when wrestling's perfect, it is the greatest thing in the world. It makes me feel great, especially being a wrestler. Like when we're on a show and it's flowing, everything's working good. The show's over. You just sit in the locker room like, this is why I do it. Like this is why we travel the roads. This is why my body hurts, every day of the week. This is why I've had multiple concussions. This is why this. This is why I've missed this because of this feeling. Because the fans are happy, you're happy. It's just a great moment. Wrestling is perfect.
Wrestling is my favorite sport, and I know a lot of people don't consider it a sport, but like I said, we wrestlers don't get a day off. If you're a professional wrestler in a major company, you're working day in and day out. You're not
Yeah.
getting no off days, and then on top of that, you'll do a show, and shows can be 2 to 3 hours. And if it's a pay per view, it's like 4. And then you gotta get. Not only do you gotta go to the show and do it and perform, in some cases you might have to stay for the whole show. You can't leave.
hmm
And then once the show's over, you gotta get in the car and drive to the next town. And who
And
knows?
God forbid you get hurt, and then you got to drive hurt to the next town, and your back stiff. You're riding in the car. You're like, holy hell! I got to. You get out to get gas. You can barely walk. People are like looking at you like, what the hell happened to you? And then, or you go get stitched up, and you split your head. You go get stitched up, and got to tell the doctor, hey, I'm a wrestler. Well, I thought it was fake. Well, it's not. You obviously stitching my head up. So
Yeah, I keep
like
telling people
it's
that.
it's it,
Like, wrestling isn't fake; it's scripted, and
it's yeah
it's like a movie. It's like a
yeah
live
it's a
action movie.
live action movie.
Very that. It's a
Yeah.
script that they follow, which is like a baseline for how the match goes.
Yeah.
But I feel like for the most part, y'all have free reign creatively to do what y'all want.
Yeah, as an independent, yeah.
Yeah. So like again, we might know the outcome. They know the outcome, but the presentation value, the presentation that they do is what it's all about. It's not
Yeah.
about the end result. It's about how we get there. It's about the journey to that end result.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, it's definitely a live action movie. Live action movie with no nets, no stuntmen, no extras. It's just us doing it. One take. If we mess up, you guys let us know. If we do good, you guys let us know. So that's the beauty of it too. But we're we're comedians that try out new material in front of a crowd. That's
Exactly.
with our bodies. Our jokes are our bodies.
Exactly. And whatever lands, lands. Whatever doesn't,
Exactly.
you take it back and workshop it and fix it and alter it.
Exactly.
There's always room for elevation. You can always take a character a little further. There's nothing wrong with trying out new moves. It's always good to keep yourself fresh. You want to keep people invested in your character.
Exactly.
But Sadly I have to wrap up this interview. I really don't want to.
Boo.
I want this to work out. But it's been great talking to you, Cody. Would you like to tell the fans where they can find you at?
So on Twitter, it is at Who is Cody Jones. On Instagram, at Who is Cody Jones. Um, Facebook is Facebook. I think it's Cody Jones 08, I believe it is. Um, yeah, I didn't get the first Cody Jones. Somebody else had it, so it's all screwed up that way.
You gotta put the numbers
Yeah, that
in. I get it.
other than that, I'm on YouTube. Find search Cody Jones if you want to see some of my wrestling. I'm pretty approachable. I'm trying to be better at it. If you want me on your podcast, I'll be on that too. I'll tell everybody about myself. I don't care.
Good, because I will definitely love to do a follow-up interview with both you and Paloma, and would love
Let's
to,
do it.
and I would just love to have an interaction with you too, because you guys,
Oh, let's do it. Definitely.
I'm definitely going to talk. Please talk to her, and
I
let's
will.
get this set up. I would love to do that.
That sounds good.
But again, thank you for your time, and thank you for coming on my podcast and
Oh no.
giving my viewers new a newfound introspective into what it's like to be an independent wrestler.
No, thank you. Thank you for letting me talk about it a little bit. But yeah, anytime you want me on, anytime you want us on, I'll come back and do part two if you wanted to. We'll come on together. It doesn't matter. Just let us
Okay,
know. But thank you. Thank you so
no,
much.
no problem. You enjoy the rest of your day, bud.
All right, you too.